Welcome to Hospitality Folks, a podcast about the people behind great hospitality. I'm your host, Alicia Dick Wahlberg. Join me as we talk with hotel teams, managers, and operators about hiring, culture, and what it really takes to build teams that perform at high levels and stay. I'm so excited to have you on with us at Hospitality Folks today.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Lali Jochmann. I currently am in Singapore, where I run a personal training business for mainly quite high achieving clients, where we focus on increasing or helping them increase their performance so that they can really show up to their daily life, be that in the office, be that on work trips, private trips.
You have such a fascinating background with a very specific niche, and I'm so excited to dive in. Maybe for those who don't know you, could you explain how you go from professional swimming to being a bouncer and then being an expert in the wellness area?
Well, yeah, these are the dark pages of my past. Yeah, when I was a national swimmer representing Switzerland, obviously when I was a bit younger, I spent about 20 years pursuing that part of my career, which was very interesting. Obviously, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about training. You learn a lot about well-being. You learn a lot about wellness. You learn a lot about management, managing yourself. You learn a lot about managing, being part of a team, perseverance, all these characteristics that people generally associate with high performance sports, right? So that was a very foundational part of my journey, I would say. I mean, I would go as far as a lot of what I do nowadays draws actually back from that time spent in the pool and spent being part of the team and like literally, head down counting tiles in the swimming pool. Yeah, discipline, perseverance, as I said before. Right? It's a major part of what we do now. Once that career ended, well, essentially I had to then, make my own money because my dad then decided that it's time. The easiest job to pick up at the time, well paid, as long as you're a student as well, was to become a bouncer, which was maybe my first experience in hospitality as well. And being a bouncer just teaches you about life, right? Because you learn about people and you learn how to live with people, learn how to deal with people, how to manage people. I would say that's probably one of the best schools of life to really work on your people skills, right? And again, a lot of what I do, I draw from the experience then, right? Like how do you calm somebody down, right? I mean, like everybody that's been to a bar, yeah, you've seen, the guy who's freaking out after he's had too much to drink, and how do you calm this guy down, make sure he and everybody else has still have a nice evening while they're, out in the place that you're looking after. So a lot of interesting experiences, encounters, of course, happened there as well. You get to know a very different side of your town. This was in Zurich mainly. Later also worked in Spain and China in the same capacity as well. Which also then allows you to dive into the cultures. You meet people of all walks of life, and you learn to live and to deal with people of all walks of life. But again, I think gives you a good basis for anything that you then later in life are going to do, as I do now. With our training programs, it's all about the people and how you connect with them, right? And the connection that you establish, that you build with them, that you are able to maintain with them, right? Because at the end of the day, similar to any bar, it's the customers that come back. Those are the customers that you want, right? It's the customers that come back, because that allows you to build a community, that allows you to get to know people, to connect to people, right? From a business perspective, that allows you then to get referrals. Nowadays, we call it referrals. Back then, we call it, hey, bring your buddy for a beer. But the concept of it stays the same. Right? You're having a good time while you're here with us. Go and tell everybody, bring your friends. We call it referral business nowadays. Sometimes we incentivize it. Back then, we incentivized it with this free drink at the bar. I don't know, something like that. Something much, much simpler than maybe we do nowadays. Maybe we don't have to do it more complicated nowadays, right? Maybe the incentive can be just bring your friend, have a good time. Enough of an incentive.
Now, what I absolutely love is how you started with a high intensity sport as a professional. What I love about athletes and hospitality is they are trained for intense situations. They need to be the best themselves, but they need to do it with the team. And they have to do it with professionalism. That is a breeding ground for great hospitality experts.
Well, thank you. And I would actually, I would actually agree with that. I think you talk about these soft skills or transferable skills, right? Nowadays in many contexts, but I definitely think in the context of what you just said, going or transitioning from being an athlete into then a person in the service industry or the hospitality industry, right? There's a lot of concepts that transfer, right? One, of course, is teamwork. The other one is you constantly have to perform under pressure, right? Swimming, as you know, is a highly competitive sport. From a very young age, you're constantly being assessed, you're being grouped, you have to qualify for the next team. So there's always this progression that you have to work on, and always this pressure that you learn to deal with. And you learn to deal with the good sides. Every now and then you win. A lot of the times you don't, right? But you just have to carry on. You learn to deal with the wins as well as with the losses. You learn to deal with your wins and your losses, but also with the wins and the losses of your teammates, right? How are we moving on as individuals? How are we moving forward as a team, coming off a win or coming off a loss, right? And I think both are equally important. And it's almost like, it's not like something that you oftentimes, sometimes you sit down and you talk about it and you learn about it. But very often it's just something that happens in a more informal setting as well, in the world of athletics, right? Because after the competition, you and your boys get together, you go for a meal and, talk it out and you find a way forward from a win and for a loss. And I think it's very important that we do that throughout our entire careers, not just in athletics, right? Take the win, take the loss, learn from it, and move forward, right? It makes teams stronger, it makes individuals stronger. It helps you perform under pressure, right? It helps you create a reflective mindset. I think it's also very, very important. Good athletes, in my opinion, comes from a reflective mindset. And I can reflect on my bad uh, 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 performances or competitions, as well as I can or I can reflect on my good performances. What went well?
Yeah.
People always seem to. I find a lot of time people go like, oh, this didn't go well, and I didn't do that well. But hang on a minute. Even when you didn't win the medal, right? You still did a lot of things well, right? So there's also like a focus shift that we can have there, and I think it translates into team building and keeping teams together and helping teams perform at a higher level. It's this ability to reflect and to then, decide on the way forward. I think that's very important. And that's something that you learn as an athlete every day.
I love this analogy. So I was very active with sports until I had a tumor in my calf when I was a teenager, where it completely stopped everything for a while. Big thing. But I was in high level varsity sports and volleyball, basketball, track and field full time. And one thing that I really took away from that is this high intensity. You see a problem, you act on it, you reflect, and you grow. And I have brought that into every position and every role I have worked in. And I'm trying to bring that into as well my own company that I'm starting with Folks Nest. But I now realize so Enterprise, they try to, where I grew up, they always try to recruit ex professional athletes. Every single person in every branch I have ever interacted with, they were university athletes.
Yes, I can absolutely 100% relate to that. Yes, because there's this inherent quality, as I spoke about before, that athletes or ex-athletes bring along. And I actually firmly believe it never goes away. Because if you've reached a certain level, a collegiate level, a university level, this is just ingrained in you and it's just has become a part of who you are and
Yeah.
how you carry yourself, how you respond to certain react or to certain situations, how you deal with pressure. I think this is just like really part of your DNA almost. And I could absolutely 100% agree. Actually, just interesting is I had this conversation recently with one of my clients who's a very high performing as a senior partner in a consultancy. And we were talking about the hiring process, how they go through such a very rigorous hiring process at their firm. And I said, do you hire anything but athletes? And he was very surprised by my question. I said, like, in an environment like that, my very first question is, well, tell me about your athletic background. What did you do when you were in college? I mean, you're all obviously very smart people. If you apply to a position like that, you're a very smart person. You've had the best university degrees. You've graduated with flying colors and all that. We don't need to talk about that, right? But what else did you do? For example, were you a high performing musician, right? Like, were you a high performing artist, right? And I sit you down and you paint a beautiful painting of the Swiss Alps in the next 5 minutes with your eyes closed, right? Under pressure, right? Those are
Yeah.
all things that I think are tremendously important in the not just the hiring process, but also then in the team leading process, tremendously.
Especially when you come to terms of hospitality and dealing with people in every situation. They're happy, they're angry, they can be drunk. You have all these situations that are very human levels that you can't necessarily plan for. So, having someone in the team, especially let's say front desk or very highly active with the guest, you need someone who can respond quickly to a situation in a calm manner.
Correct. That is exactly what sports is. Like you very, very often you're in a high pressure situation and you kind of know that you have to calm yourself down, right? And most athletes will have developed over time their routines or their cues, right? How do I pause myself? How to calm myself down before I go into this highly competitive situation, right? And as you said, that translates into how you interact with people, right? And it becomes, I quite like to, when I try to explain this, my school of thought here, my train of thought to clients or team members, is the reaction versus response. And I think athletes respond because they've learned the skill of, okay, here's the problem. Let me calm down, take a step back, analyze it, and then respond to it rather than just jump straight in, and then react to it, which a lot of time doesn't lead to ideal outcomes, right? So I think this reaction versus response mechanism is something that athletes will learn very early on, and they really learn it very well.
I'm laughing as you're talking because I remember as a teenager in basketball tournaments, other girls physically punching me because they were so mad about my box outs. And I couldn't respond to them. I knew that I couldn't fight them. I couldn't yell at them. So I would just laugh at them like, are you serious? And I realized as the years progressed, I found my passion for hospitality and I developed what I call an angry smile when someone is I just want to like go off on someone like I can't. Yes, we can help you. I'm
Yeah.
here. And it drives my husband insane.
Oh, yeah, but it's something that we then do naturally every day. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of us, like I was saying, in my daily work, I have got, of course, this situation as well, where you go like, well, you want to go like, you cannot be serious. Right? Your answer that you have in your head is like, "Well, you got to be kidding me, right? But then you, of course, do exactly what you call the angry smile, and you go like, sure, let me help you with that, right? It's absolutely
Mhm.
no problem at all. Because that's how we have been taught, and that's how we've been brought up, right? And it's just become part of our fabric of our DNA. So I think it's
Absolutely.
very interesting that you and I that we share that experience. And I would say if you were to invite 10 more athletes to this conversation, I would go as far as to bet money on saying that they would all reply something very, very similar in their interactions and in their experiences. Yeah.
That's a great question. For anyone listening, if you're an ex athlete or current athlete in hospitality, do you share a similar story?
Yes,
Let us
please.
know.
Yeah, yes, please. Let's start a bit of a survey here. That would be great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want to jump into about what you have been doing the last few years and how you want to bring that over to hospitality back to Switzerland.
So in the last few years, I've been busy building like my own business, where, as I said before, where I support high performing individuals on their journey to physical fitness, but also like mental fitness. Some people refer to that as mental wellness or well-being as a broad umbrella. Obviously, my main focus there is on the physical performance because I firmly believe that the physical performance then translates into mental performance as well, right? Be that as in the office, be that in your job, be that in a board meeting, or be that simply at home with your family, right? The clarity of mind, the presence that you learn through being physically active, to being physically performing. I think that is very, very important. So that's basically the key preposition of my business at the moment, right? Where I do one-on-ones in group settings as well. That then also then, obviously I'm no longer that bouncer I was 25 years ago, right? I have I'm a little bit older as well. Uh, so that then also then translates now into the spin-off of wellness. The current is longevity, right? So there's longevity is something that a lot of people now start to talk about. I'm not sure that a lot of people really know what it means, right? Longevity in a medical or in a probably in a practical sense is we live longer than the generations before us on average, right? So how do we how do we meaningfully fill that time that we have now gained? And I'm not talking about this from a medical perspective. There's other experts on that, but it goes together with the whole supplements and peptides and whatever all buzzwords are floating around. My perspective here is, of course, I'm coming in from how can I physically prepare myself or put myself in the best position to live a meaningful additional 1, 2, 3 decades that I now have been given versus the generations before us, right? So in that sense, I'm trying to really educate people I work with on what you're doing now is building a foundation for the next 20, 30 years, right? From now, or 40, 50 years, right? As we're making such advances in medical sciences that this might not be 20 years, it might as well be 40 or 50 years, right? So what is this going to look like? So a lot of it has to do with simply being strong, just physically strong, right? Because the stronger I am now, the stronger I will be in those 20, 40, 50 years. If I'm already physically quite weak, if you want to say that, I don't like using that word, but physically not as prepared as I possibly could be, it's only going to go down the hill from there. Right? It's a sad reality. Right? So that aspect there's a very strong element of what I try to do. Right? I try to really make sure that people understand, or that people that work with me understand, no, your strength is a key pillar of your well-being. And we'll connect that later into how I feel hospitality can respond to that as well. Because hospitality already in the existing structures has a lot to offer. And is already kind of like gearing, and a lot of offerings are already going in that direction. Because then the other aspect of is not just strength, mobility as well, right? Balance, all of those three are like the physical elements that play into longevity. The other one is simply diet. And this is where hospitality has got, of course, a lot to offer already, right? Because a lot of hospitality is the hotel, it's the F&B, right? And the two obviously then can work together. How can I make that offer a bit more meaningful in a wellness, but also in like a longevity context, right? What can I educate people on that and then make them experience it, right? I think that's a big opportunity there for the diet portion of it as well. And to me, equally important is, and this is where I think we all can improve, connection with nature. We just have to reconnect with nature, right? Open the door, open the windows, and ideally there's a tree standing in front of it, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a lake or a river, or some element of nature that is like that you can't miss. Right? I think that's is going to be also super important. And say a country like Switzerland. Switzerland has got such an abundance of natural beauties. Every corner you take, right? There's mountains, there's forest, there's greenery, there's rivers and lakes and everything. There's so much opportunity to connect with nature in a meaningful way. I think that is also one of the key elements that I think we should be integrating here as well. And the last one, I think, is going to be the biggest one actually, next to strength training, is sleep. Right? How do we work on sleep? And of
Yeah.
course, sleep is what people in hotels do for a lot of their time, right? But how do I integrate that, right? Because a lot of us, you speak to people, oh, I only sleep 4 hours a night. I haven't been able to sleep for the last 2 weeks because, whatever, the markets are going crazy or this and that. So how do we get people to connect back also with their own rhythm, right? And have them understand the importance of sleep. And that then connects to the first point, strength training, mobility training, balance training, right? Now, I think the shift here in my region, which is Southeast Asia, is to me already a little bit visible. There's offerings that actually originated, they started as gyms, right? For example, in Thailand, what's near us here is Koh Samui, Phuket, the islands of Thailand, right? Beautiful, right? Blessed by nature. And some of the most popular destinations on these islands now, they started out as simple Muay Thai gyms, right? As you have dozens, hundreds maybe across Thailand, right? But they then managed to integrate hospitality into their offering. So they started as Muay Thai gyms. Then they had little huts around where, you could stay over at night. That then grew into a more sophisticated, almost like hotel-like offerings, right? Or bungalows and villas that then but still center around the gyms, and the gyms grew more sophisticated from Muay Thai only to mixed martial arts to strength and conditioning to they have dietitians on site and all that. But the whole idea is that you come because you want to be active. You want to experience something else than just sitting in a beautiful setting in a hotel, or in your bungalow, overlooking the ocean. But more or less, you pretty much just park yourself on a lounge chair for whatever, however long you're going to be there for, right? And I think a lot of people are looking for something different, or maybe a hybrid solution at least, right? Yes, I do want to spend the time in my lounge chair, and I do want to have the nice breakfast buffet, but I also want to do something else. I want to experience something else. I want to be physical, right? I want to get a little bit more in touch with my like physicality. And I think that then leads to offerings. Okay, how do we integrate strength training? Right? How do we integrate balancing? How do we integrate mobility training into that? Right? Is it just the like somewhere down in the basement there's a yoga studio? Somebody like, reinvented another room that they had, put a bunch of mats in, hire a yoga instructor that comes in every Tuesday afternoon from 3 to 4, and they call that now the wellness offering, right? I think we can do more than that. Right? And
Yeah.
there is already organizations out there that have started doing more than that, and I'm quite fascinated by that. That's something that I would like to take back to Switzerland, right? Because I think, as I said before, we have got such an amazing outdoors culture already and such an amazing beauty that we can tap into, right? And we have got, of course, a great developed hospitality infrastructure, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about Switzerland, you think of the beautiful nature. And all the research is showing that there is this huge trend of wanting to disconnect from tech on travels, of wanting to be active, to eat real food, to
Yes,
sleep. And to be honest, my husband and I have been trying to find these places for the last few years. And we've had pretty good luck in Sweden. We often stay at Scandic because we know, okay, it's a decent sleep. They have an okay gym. But the breakfast, we can get fruits, we can get everything that's real breakfast, not like pre made continental powdered mix breakfast.
yeah, exactly, right.
And we even we a few years ago, we drove an hour from Stockholm to stay on this island because we found this person who built this glass hut on top of a hill overlooking a forest and water, and they had an outdoor gym, CrossFit level gym. It was
Right.
quiet, it was beautiful, it was walking, it was nature, it had everything on the list. It
Yeah.
was just in the middle of nowhere.
But I actually think because, as you said, right, it's also this, I'm glad you mentioned that this disconnect, right? Because you're always on our devices, and I'm as guilty as anybody else of that, right? How many times do you find yourself doom scrolling on one of your devices, right? If you're honest with yourself, way too often. Right? And that ability to disconnect from there and just go like, no, you know what? I'm here because I wanna transform. I want a transformative experience, right? And I want to go away from that doom scrolling, sitting around, even though it's nice and I'm in a lovely environment and everybody greets me by my first name and all that is fantastic and it's a great sign of great hospitality. And I think that we need to keep that. But I think we need to add on, right? And cater to those people who do want that transformative experience. And which also brings me back to what I said before, like, when we had our referral businesses, right? Or we talk about referral businesses. I believe if you can offer somebody a truly transformative experience, they're going to tell their friends about it. And they're going to become your number one ambassadors, right? And they're going to come back and they're going to bring their friends, they're going to bring their family, right? And before you know it, you've actually started building a community, right? And that then becomes a very defendable business as well, right? That then becomes more than just a classic, okay, I'm going to go to the spa, I'm going to have my massage, I'm going to have my facial, I'm going to have all this, I'm going to buy the products and apply them myself. Yes, also very good, also very valuable, but I don't think it's all we can do. I think there's more we can do.
I totally agree, especially as AI becomes more of a staple in everyone's life and it's very computer based most of our lives. Having this sense of community and this human aspect of just being in the moment. And how can hotels, resorts, or other communities bring that together to really build up these communities that are based around people with the similar idea of wanting to be healthier, wanting to disconnect with technology, wanting to be their best selves.
I think that it starts with with your conceptual idea, right? If you build a facility around a gym space, a common shared area, right, where you can experience these transformative well experiences, right? Where you can have that, where you can get yourself involved, where if you want to lift weights, you lift weights. If you want to do yoga, you do yoga, but why not do both, right? Why not work on both, right? Like where you have this really immersive and active experiences, right? The disconnect from that's at least an hour or an hour and a half. I'm not going to be on my phone, right? Can I bring my children to it? Why not? No better example for your children than an active parent, right? To see your child or to have your child see you as their parent, be active, engage in lifting weights, engage in running, engage in pick an activity right, that fulfills you is probably the best example you can set for your children.
100%. I can honestly say, as parents with a 4-year-old active son, that is something we have not been able to find, where we have been able to find a type of vacation where we can just be active in a certain way at the same time. Usually we have to switch off.
But you know, those I think those would be the concepts that I will find very interesting, and
Yeah.
I would love to work with, right? And bring my perspective of wellness, of strength, of mobility, of balancing, of all these elements we talked about. How can we integrate that, or how can we actually build centered around that? Right? You know, if you start your if you okay, I'm going to build this around a sort of like a gym space, right? And then go from there, you will have a very different preposition, right? Because how many times, and you said that before, how many times do you travel somewhere and you look at, okay, where am I going to stay? Like for me now, it's important when I travel, I want to be somewhere where there's a gym, right? And I don't need the most elaborate gym, but I need a good, well equipped gym. So that already, I actually end up very often on Airbnb and I find a place that's near a gym, right? But why do I have to do that, right? Why do I have to go to Airbnb? Why can I not just get into a property that has it, right? Where I go in and I don't have to go into basement 4 to find a gym, right? With half broken equipment, when you can see anything here, this is an afterthought, right?
Yes.
Somebody in some department realized, oh, hang on, we don't have any offering in that sense. Yeah, but we have got that spare room in basement 4. Well, let's put in some lighting. Let's get some secondhand treadmills, and we call it a gym, right? And then we can say we have a wellness offering. I think that's also like selling yourself short, but it's also a bit of a disservice to your.
I fully agree. And I realize now, at the age of 34, how privileged I was when I was 24. I was training for 6. They set me up in this beautiful hotel next to the Miami airport to train for a month. And they had the gym, first floor, big open windows with a terrace there that went right onto this like little waterway.
Beautiful, right?
It was stunning. I loved going in the morning, doing some yoga, like light lifting. Honestly, I think in that whole month, I maybe saw 5 other people.
Yeah. Well, that's I think I would like to be part of initiating this shift, right?
Yeah.
Of like how do we get the gym culture of which we have and how do we get that and integrate that into hospitality, into luxury hospitality as well, right? Like imagine being in the Swiss Alps. You wake up to a beautiful sunset in the Alps with like snow-covered hills, right? And then you go out and you smash some weights and you feel really good before breakfast, right? Go in, have a healthy breakfast, right? Take a bit of a rest, right? Go into an ice bath, do something like that, right? Go out, go for a hike, connect with nature, right? Come back, have a healthy lunch, right? Do your second session, go for a bit of the cardio session in the afternoon, right? Finish the day with a yoga session, right? I mean, how fantastic is that? And what a different experience than to just go sit next to a pool, right? In your lounge chair, probably on your phone again, right? Missing the forest and the birds and the sunsets and the snow and whatever else you would miss, right? What a very, very different experience. And I firmly believe that this will be a much more fulfilling experience, much more meaningful experience for any guest, right? And again, it's something that you can integrate your children into as well, right? This is a family experience, right? When you go with your husband, with your wife, with your partner, right? Tell me something better than you train together. I,
To be
I don't know.
honest, exactly what
I challenge anybody to find it. If you have an activity that you like doing together, I don't know, be that lifting weights, right? Or to compromise, you go lifting weights in the morning because I like it, and then we go yoga in the afternoon because my wife, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? And I guarantee you, you're going to have a better sleep.
I mean, exactly what you described is something that my husband and I have been trying to find. Just add a sauna and it sounds perfect. With the setting in Switzerland, it couldn't be better.
Right. And the thing is, I do believe that there is plenty of properties around it that have the sauna, they have the pool, but they lack the rest, right? And I think at the end of the day, also this has to be about, it has to be a defendable business, right? But I think your bottom line is going to look better if you offer people an active experience, transformative experience, because if I go on a holiday, I mean, for most of us, we have to like a holiday is an event, right? It's not just like most of us can't just pick up and go on holiday. I've got to plan it. Got to talk to my boss, like get time off. I got the finances, right? I have to have there's a whole number of things that need to be put in place. If I go and I have a transformative experience and I come home and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna join the gym because I had such a good time while I was away and I feel so good after those 10 days being away. I'm not going to go join a gym. And next time I go back on a holiday, I want to do that same thing again. But I want to be stronger when I come back on a holiday. It's a different mindset, right? There's a shift in thinking about how you spend a holiday, on what that can actually do to you. Because I think that I've read a research somewhere that the effect of a holiday, of this classic, sit by the pool and do not all that much, that is gone by about the second day back to work. And I think it takes like about 2 or 3 days of work. And then all the effect that you had or that you perceive to have had in your holiday is literally just gone. And that's actually quite sad if you think about it, right?
I'm laughing because for me, the most miserable type of holiday for me is just sitting on a lawn chair next to a pool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same, right? I'm exactly the same, right? I
Like
need
I
to
can
have
maybe do it an hour, but then I'm out.
correct, right? And I am exactly the same. I can totally relate to that, right? You put me into like, a resort and I sit there and I look at the most beautiful landscape, 60 minutes max. And now
Yep.
we got to go do something.
I want to dive in. I want to be in the nature.
Yeah. And I think there's and there's the growing number of people that feel like what you and I just described, right? And I think that's the demographic needs to be captured, right? And, if you look at gym penetration rates in different countries, right? What are they? It depends, right? It probably averages out, I don't know, 15, 20%, most of Europe maybe, right? Around there. But that 15, 20%, if you look at the market size, what do we have? 450 million people in the European Union, plus minus, right? You take 20% of that. What's that? Don't want to make a mathematical error here, but I think it's about between 80 and 100 million, something like that, right?
Someone do the math and let us know.
Yeah, so there must be about 80 to 100 million, something like that, right? 450, 20%, 400, yeah. Hang on, no, that's not even true. 150 divided by 5, yeah, that's less than 100, yeah, so 80, right? But you have this 80 to 100 million people that already have gym memberships and all that, right? So that's a huge market, right? And if you can capture those markets and offer them this experience that they can then continue with that, not just go out, party hard, drink hard. I think that's kind of like, I think that kind of had its time. It had its moment a while ago, and we all did it, and it was fun. We all went to all these places, and we all did it. We all had a party time and drink hard, sleep all day, go to Bangkok 5 days straight, never see sunlight. We all had that, right? But I think it's shifting, and if you look at this, say within Europe, I guess 80, 100 million people demographic, maybe even if it's only half, even if it's only 50 million, that's still a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
If you can offer these people something like what we've talked about, I think that's amazing. I think that would be also for your bottom line, that'd be an amazing concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you think about the newer generation with Gen Z, they're not drinking as much. Millennials are not drinking as much anymore. And there's things popping up like daytime sober raves at bakeries. That needs to be a bigger thing.
I 100% agree, right? I 100% agree. I actually just last October traveled through Eastern Europe on a road trip, right? I love taking road trips. And I came and I was in a small, not so small, but like in Košice, which is in Slovakia, all the way in the east, right? Beautiful town and all that. You know what was the one thing that was the most happening? It wasn't the bars, it wasn't a nightclub. It was a reading of an author in a coffee shop late at night. That coffee shop was brimming, it was full And then they brought on a DJ. Nobody was drunk. Everybody was having a good time. Amazing.
Stunning.
Amazing. It's like stuff like I think that's that shift away from the as I say, like again, I read that somewhere the other day that overall global alcohol sales are down by about 20%
Yeah.
globally, right? That's again, I mean, if you then translate that into how many people that affects or that made that choice to stay away from alcohol and do other and search other experiences, that's a massive number of people,
Yeah.
right?
And
I
it's
mean,
only growing.
that 20% by next year is probably going to be 25 and so on. Right? So
Yeah.
I think there's big opportunities here to capture that market. As I said, I think Switzerland with its hospitality infrastructure and with its
Yes.
hospitality reputation is in a prime position to really start to go, let's maybe keep the revolution going.
Absolutely. And I know you are looking to move back to Switzerland. So if someone after listening to this wanted to reach out and see about talking with you or bringing you on even to their team, where could they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn under Lali Jochmann. They can find me on Instagram under Lift with Lali. That's my new little venture is my online business. Or of course they can reach out to you. You have all my contact
Yes.
details, and you know I'd be happy to
Perfect.
talk to anybody about my ideas and about how I can see we can combine sort of like the two worlds together and really make something amazing happen.
Let's bring in a new
Yeah.
wave of wellness into hospitality. We're starting
I
with
think that sounds
Switzerland.
amazing. Yes, I think that sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly where we should be going.
That's a wrap on this week's hospitality, folks. Lolly, thank you for bringing this vision to the table. The wellness revolution in hospitality is coming, and conversations like this one are exactly how it starts. Now, before you go, I want to leave you with this. If you are a hotel operator or regional leader, when was the last time a guest left your property feeling genuinely transformed? Not just relaxed or rested, transformed. Think about that. If today's conversation resonated with you, Lali is actively looking for the right team to join in the DACH area. He has spent over 15 years building premium performance driven businesses across Asia and is ready to bring that vision home to Europe. You can find him on LinkedIn at Lali Jochmann or on Instagram at Lift with Lali. If you're not already following Folks Nest, subscribe now wherever you listen and follow me on LinkedIn at Alicia Dick Wahlberg for more real conversations on culture, careers, and the people reshaping hospitality, travel, tourism, and startups. Until next time.